I glamorized drugs from like a young age. I loved rock and roll, and all of my heroes were drug addicts. I think I actually took ecstasy before I ever really got drunk.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at a performing arts school. You know, like, I'm trying to word this the right way that is most appropriate.
I'm not appropriate at all.
Well, no, I know, but
I didn't want to be normal. I wanted to be exceptional. When like those things just like weren't happening like automatically, that also like fed into like my drinking and using. I was a nightmare when I blacked out. But that's what's scary, right? Is like when we're fucked up, we do like insane shit.
Oh yeah.
And I just didn't have a lot of like self-worth. It took a lot of unpacking to like unhear that narrative. So
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So much. Welcome to this episode of Rooted Recovery Stories. My name is Patrick Custer, and I'm your host. So glad that you're here. Today's guest is a total force. Amy Darling is a Nashville-based rock and roll frontwoman, DJ, and model with a style and presence you can't ignore. She's known for her fierce authenticity, glamorous grit, and electrifying performances. But behind her bold presence on stage is a powerful story of survival, recovery, and self-reinvention. Amy, I am so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. So in our pre-show conversation, I had to pause us. And I feel like this is, before we get into your story, this is just like the best icebreaker that I think everybody can relate to. Disassociating while we're driving the freaking car.
Yeah, I forget where I'm going sometimes. Pretty often I'll be driving and then I'll panic. Like, wait, where am I driving right now?
Do you remember, because I'm assuming, like me, that's probably been happening for you for a while now.
Oh, yeah, I'm an ADHD queen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you remember the first time you realized that happened for you? Did it, like, freak you out?
I don't think I remember like the first time. It's just like and it's not like I'm like driving off the road or like something crazy. Yeah. It's just literally I'm like, wait, where am I going? Am I like driving the right way? Because I just go on autopilot and I shut down.
Mm-hmm. Or you get completely home or where you're going and you go, I don't remember anything about the entire drive.
No.
Yeah.
And I think like also like whether we realize it or not, like we're in a bit of like a survival mode when we're driving, and it's like a little bit of like fight or flight.
Yes.
Which I think kind of lends itself to maybe like shutting off other like thought processes because we're so into like what is happening in our car and around us, or maybe not.
Yeah. I think that you hit the nail on the head because we, it's one of the few things that we do in life where it's seemingly it is autopilot. But there's so many tasks that are going on within our brain that we're not consciously necessarily controlling, you know? I mean, like so much of the time, like we literally can do it and our brain is doing all that stuff, on its own. And we go somewhere, I don't know. I mean, for me, it can be all kind of, you know, whatever. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what I was just thinking about for 30 minutes while I was driving. Like, right? I don't know where I was. I can't trace that back. But I think it's a testament to the power of the brain and the nervous system. And, you know, I think where this started was we were talking about how sometimes one of the only reliefs we get when we're in a trauma cycle or really stressed out is actually while we're driving. Now, this isn't the case for everybody because some people are just driving is like their biggest trigger. But like you said, it's a form of survival mode. And if you're having to survive something else, whatever it is that you're surviving in daily life gets put in it gets automatically compartmentalized.
Absolutely.
And so I just think it's an interesting topic because, and if you don't drive, I guess that would be the only reason why you might not be able to relate to this. But
yeah, maybe if you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Although when I'm walking, I'm thinking a lot.
Yeah. what they walking is one of the biggest, when you're emotionally dysregulated, walking is up there on like the top 5 things that will bring you back to regulation. I mean, like, it doesn't fix everything.
It's a
but
cortisol level thing. And that also is like a fight or flight, because our bodies, whenever we're stressed, it kind of goes back to like that primal instinct where like our body thinks like, oh, I'm being attacked by like a tiger or a fucking dinosaur. And then when you walk, that forward motion actually helps to like lower your cortisol levels. So I go on walks a lot when I'm feeling dysregulated.
Yeah. I think that has something too also to do with, I don't know about you, but for me, when I get dysregulated, whichever way it is, and whichever emotion I'm like, leaning towards, it's always kind of stemming from a lack of control. And so I feel like walking is one of those things where like I can control that. Like my body and my brain is actually, in motion, and everything about that I can control in what seemingly is a situation where I don't have any control.
Yeah. That's totally understandable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we've broken the ice. That is like I could go on and on about all those topics. But your life is I can't wait to hear more and more about your life, because I know y'all, if you could have seen her face when I said I did research before.
It's like, oh God. What did he find?
Pick your eyes up off the floor, Amy. It's not that clean. But okay. So no, let's start simple. Early life. Where'd you grow up, and how would you describe your childhood?
I grew up in the Bay Area, California, San Jose and Santa Cruz. We're getting into like story stuff, right?
We are. Excuse me while I choke on water. It's the age I'm at. It doesn't have to be anything.
Oh my God. It always goes down the wrong pipe. Like, can't just go down the right one.
Oh yeah, but no, it can be air. Like, oh, sorry, you wanted to breathe?
Yeah.
Choke.
It's like, no, I'm drinking water. So I grew up in the Bay Area, California, child of divorced parents. They divorced when I was pretty young, and that had a pretty...
Do you remember it?
That's actually like my first memory.
Really?
My mom was supposed to keep me out of the house when my dad was packing, and she like purposely took me to the house to like see my dad packing up, and was like, Dad's moving out. And that was like a major shift for me, because I was a pretty like happy-go-lucky kid. And then whenever like the divorce happened, it just kind of like destroyed my world, even though like they didn't really like get along towards the end.
How old were you?
I was 3. So like that was literally like my first memory was like my dad moving out. And like that really weighed on me like into like my childhood years. Like I always just felt like I came from like a broken family, and I always just felt like not a part of and like different from everyone else, kind of typical budding alcoholic stuff, right? Like we all kind of don't feel like we're a part of. I was bullied pretty bad when I was younger. And that also like those wounds really carry themselves into my later years, especially when I was like drinking and using, got bullied a lot. Sorry.
I want to stop and ask you really quick, because that's a big wound. I feel like you're not alone. I mean, I know you felt like you were alone in that time, but oh my God, I feel like so many people just like had to have connected when you just said that about the early divorce, because so many of us, the struggle, right? That wasn't part of my family story. I had plenty of other dysfunction going on. But
right.
Amy, when you said your mom intentionally took you to the house and pointed out and vocalized that Dad's moving out, of course, that was a memory that stuck.
Totally.
And of course that affected you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, to be fair, like they did, it wasn't like my dad like left. My dad and I have a really great relationship, and they did like co-parent me as like divorced parents. It's crazy though, because I feel like so many people come from divorced families, but for whatever reason, like wherever I was, like in San Jose, California, like I feel like the other moms and stuff like treated my mom differently, and like it was just like this weird thing because like we weren't like this cookie cutter family. So like between like that and then also like
at that time in your circle, were there not other kids or very many other kids that had that were in
my
the
childhood friends are like so hazy because I was just always like, I'd make friends with a crew and then they would kind of just start like picking on me, and then I'd kind of have to like bop around. Like I really just like always felt like this like lone wolf and like wanted to be a part of, but like really like my salvation was like whenever I started doing like theater and dance and stuff. And that was definitely like my escape. And that's kind of when I like found my people. But other than that, like school was always like pretty rough for me. I got bullied a lot for my weight, which was weird because like now when I look back, I'm like, I wasn't even like, I don't, you know, like by today's standards, I was like fine. But like, I think like at that time in like the late 90s and early 2000s, like the beauty standards were just like wildly different.
You weren't
so,
like you weren't a skeleton.
I wasn't like stick skinny.
Yeah.
And yeah, so those body image issues also like have like fueled a lot of things that like manifested later on as well. Which,
Heard.
Yeah.
Can relate.
I think anyone that grew up in California in the 90s and 2000s has some form of body dysmorphia.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I grew up here and I my own basket of all that. So what, how much later did that manifest? I don't want to skip too far ahead, but was it like,
I mean, it was just like in high school was when I started like toying with like starving myself and like bulimia, and then like taking certain things to like not eat as much.
Did you ever take Hydroxycut?
I did take hydroxy. I think I snorted Hydroxycut.
No.
I snorted everything. Like if you could crush it up, I probably tried to snort it.
Well, I feel like Hydroxycut was a powder, like in a capsule form anyway, so you could have just like.
I remember one time snorting Hydroxycut with my best friend in high school, and we just walked. And I think we ended up walking like 3 or 4 miles away from my house.
I swear, Amy, I think that there had to have been, because now let's see, I took it probably senior year through like a senior year of high school through like I don't know, sophomore year of college maybe. It was like a 2-year period.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my mom, and this was before. Anyway, my timeline's off because it was before I had my first drink of alcohol. But I remember calling my mom, and this is what my freshman year of college. I lived in Chattanooga. I went to college down there, and I called my mom, and I was like bawling because I realized I was like, I think I'm addicted to weight
loss pills.
And I was so embarrassed because of like, my image of myself was not that, like I was homeschooled my whole life. Anyway, this isn't about me. I hadn't gotten into anything.
love hearing it.
I hadn't gotten into anything yet. And so the thought of being addicted, I was like, that can't be me. I make good decisions. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
But it terrified me. And
I was the opposite. I think I glamorized drugs from like a young age.
Really?
Yes, because I loved rock and roll, and all of my heroes were drug addicts. So like there was always this allure. Like I remember getting into high school, and I went to performing arts high school, and like all the older kids were like, yeah, we have these ecstasy parties and it just makes you feel like amazing. And I was like, I want that. So that was kind of, I think I actually took ecstasy before I ever really got drunk.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at a performing arts school. I mean,
yeah. So,
and in the grand scheme of things, one could argue which one is actually more harmful to your brain. I mean,
yeah, they the older kids made me research it. Like there was this website called, I think it was called Heroin, or it's not Erewhon.
Oh my
Heroin,
gosh.
right?
I wonder if that still exists. I completely where you could identify.
Where you could look up the drugs and then see the effects they had on you. And they're like, now if you only take it every 2 weeks, your brain has time to restore its serotonin. And so I really I tried to be a good drug doer in the beginning.
Wait, was this so you could get maximum effect or so you would avoid long-term impact?
I think both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, maximum effect, so your serotonin can restore.
Right.
You can also take these vitamins.
So for me, once I started drugs and alcohol, the same type of deal. I would tell myself it was so that I could be I don't really think this is how, as long as I do it this way, I'm not harming myself.
Right.
But in reality, it was driven by knowing that if I did it, followed A, B, and C, it was going to make it work better, basically.
It'll work better. And then it's just the insane ways we try to control and manage everything. Mm-hmm. And that was until I understood the disease of addiction and alcoholism, I didn't realize how much I was trying to in my fucked up way control and manage. But I was the whole time. I mean, there was a period I think when my alcoholism really popped off when I was 18, 19, I wanted oblivion. And when I first started blacking out, I was drinking to black out every night. But then I started having consequences and I would do these really embarrassing, horrible things. And that's kind of where uppers came into play.
We become the chemists.
Yes. Because I realized, I started blacking out because I had an Adderall prescription for my ADHD. Yeah. So again, I can stay up all night and be skinny and do my homework. And it was I felt like Superman. So I stopped taking my Adderall because I was I don't think I like being on speed all the time. And when I stopped taking my Adderall, that's when my blackout started because I was drinking the same amount that I would. And I'm a Jekyll and Hyde drunk. The
switch gets flipped. And
I get really nasty. I just the most horrible things, the faintest thought you have about someone that's really horrible that you would never say. All of a sudden, I would just say all those things to people. I would try to get in fights, and I'm not really a fighter, surprisingly, even though I'm an Aries. And just crazy shit. And and just fucking a bunch of randos. I don't know. It was just, I was a terror. But then at a certain point, when cocaine kind of came back into my life, I realized that if I do cocaine, I don't black out. So it was always this dance of trying to trying to control and manage the drinking. And
right.
I was very okay with being a drug addict when I was younger. I was I'm a drug addict. I owned it. All my heroes are drug addicts. But if you told me the word alcoholic, I would have been fuck you. I'm not an alcoholic. And I didn't really like alcohol because it made me black out. So
was there someone you knew in personally in life that was an alcohol, or was there an image of alcohol being an alcoholic that you had that?
Yeah. So my mom's whole side of the family, they're we're all one of us. My cousin Aaron was kind of my older brother. He lived with me all growing up, and he is an alcoholic. And I kind of idolized him though, because he taught me about punk rock and disco, and then we'd sit there and he'd try to teach me how to drink, and I was oh well, this guy knows about drinking because he's an alcoholic. And he would actually make me sip it. He'd be you got to learn how to pace yourself, Amy. Which I never actually got drunk with Aaron. But yeah, he was he was the person in my life that was an alcoholic, but I was I'm not like Aaron.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648 4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help. Let's be honest.
We wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun sometimes.
It's fun until it's not.
But I was always chasing that party and that high. And like for the times where like it was that, there was like 27 times that it like wasn't that.
Isn't that the truth?
Right.
I
apologize. I'm like, because of my ADHD, if I like get off topic, feel free to like.
Oh, no, it's okay. Because I'm right there with, we're
okay.
like.
Perfect.
Audience, welcome. You're on the roller coaster with us. So just buckle up because you've got two ADDs and one with the H.
Yeah. As I'm like twitching my foot here. I like can't sit still.
It's totally fine.
We're doing great.
We are. I wanna go. I wanna push you to go a little deeper though into this place of you were bullied. Where did that narrative take you of I'm not okay, my body isn't okay, it's not a safe place? What message did you take it any further to a place where you started to have further dialogue than that?
I don't even think I realized I hated being in my body. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like the way that I looked. Like I had horrible like self-image issues. I think whatever was going on, like I just didn't like whatever I was when I wasn't high, like I didn't want to feel that way and I wanted to like mask that with whatever I could put in my body. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It did because it's an open-ended question and the answer is whatever your truth, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you, because some people have a, I think there are varying degrees of that internal narrative that takes place before, during, and after addiction and eating disorder body image stuff, you know?
Totally.
And so I always think that it's interesting to talk about the ride of where, you know, like.
Well, yeah, and it's also like, I didn't like being me, so then I would use whatever, because I was like cocaine and alcohol, like, were kind of like my main squeezes, but I would do anything. And like it became this thing of like almost like curating my mood with like whatever I had. So it was like, and then like, you know, there was like the Percocet era where I was like, oh, I can just like take my stepmom's Percocet and then I don't have to like drink as much and that's less calories. Like that's like the insanity of this thing where it's like I'm trying to control and manage my alcoholism. I'm trying to control and manage my body image issues. Like,
yeah. Do you remember? Okay, I'm trying to word this the right way that is most appropriate.
I'm not appropriate at all.
Well, no, I know, but I want to be respectful of you, and also how I speak of the feminine, and you know, and what have you. Okay, so you know, when you're younger, you talk about you were like, I just had these feelings. I don't even know that I knew what they were. I wasn't comfortable in my body and I wanted to escape. But something happens as time moves on and you're like starting, like you have role models or images of what women should be, what they look like, what you aspire to, what you are or aren't, all those things. So I'm curious, what was in your teen years as you're like, you know, edging into participating in the restrictive eating, the binging, the, you know, and the dysmorphia starting to really take hold. do you remember what, because you have to have an ideal in order to say I'm not that, right?
Well, yeah, like I wanted to be heroin chic. Like I wanted to be like Kate Moss or like one of those girls. And like I just do not have that body type. And like now, like I'm very happy like with the way that I look. But like that was kind of, it was like I was like we call it indie sleaze era, but like that was like my era, like the early 2000s in like LA and London, and like that's what was hot. It was like that skinny heroin chic. I've been partying for 6 days, which I had that part down, but I just obviously didn't have the other part down. And like there's some people that like can drink and do drugs and like look that way. I was not. Like alcohol, like I would just, my face would puff up, like it just, yeah. So yeah, that was like my ideal, was like I wanted like that kind of rock and roll heroin chic thing. And like, yeah.
Do you remember thinking about, because this is from, I'm asking these questions from a perspective of, because I am a cis gay male that like, grew up, I mean, I can kind of relate to the whole, I didn't want to be a rock star. I think I wanted to be a pop star. No, I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a bunch of different things that didn't really match together.
Right.
So I guess you put that all together with some alcoholism and podcast host makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. DJ.
But it's so bizarre because when I look back and think about like the male body that I would idolize, it was not the one that I was chasing after. But I also too, around the ages that we're talking about, what like for me, like being very thin and having hollowed cheeks. I mean, like that told me that I was, I don't know. It gave me a sense of control. I also grew up in a Southern family where everyone was overweight. Yeah. And so there were a lot of things of me just escaping what I didn't feel was me, and also like was good, it wasn't good. And I didn't know what necessarily was the right way or was good. It's just such a paradox. So as I say that about my experience, what I'm curious about is like when you think about grown females in your life that were not the ones in magazines and whatever that you're looking at going like, I want to be Twiggy, Yeah. But like your mom or her friends, or I don't know, maybe like the prettiest teacher at your school that you like in your head, at some point, do you like look at them as like, that's just not part of my world. My future is, do you know what I mean? Like body types that are normal female.
Oh, because I was destined for big things. So I should like be the best and look the best, and I'm going to be a rock star. And yeah. So like, I just like was like deluded into thinking like that I was supposed to be like something more. And like, maybe I still have a little bit of that, but like, yeah, I didn't want to be normal. I wanted to be exceptional. And like, I think when like those things just like weren't happening like automatically, that also like fed into like my drinking and using. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's I feel like a lot of alcoholics have that, where it's like that dichotomy of like thinking like I'm so great, but then also having like the extreme of like really like hating ourselves and like wanting to hide as well.
And yes, it's so, we talk about the Jekyll and Hyde and the so many of us who are addicts, but especially alcoholics. I don't know what it is about specifically alcohol, but so many of us share that trait of that specific trait of the narcissistic personality disorder. Not that we have narcissistic personality disorder, but that is a hallmark symptom or a hallmark trait that everybody identifies with narcissism as I'm either the worst or the best in every scenario.
I actually asked a sponsor one time, I was like, I think I'm a narcissist. And she goes, you're not. And I was like, how do you know? She said, because you're questioning whether or not you're a narcissist. And if you were truly a narcissist, you wouldn't be questioning whether or not you are one.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean we don't have some qualities.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
And that's all the fun stuff we get to
explore
once we once our life's not in danger as much.
Yeah, once we're not gonna die.
Yeah. So as you're at that point where you're numbing out, and despite all your efforts, it's interesting to me that you say, like, despite all my efforts, I still, like, my face would be puffy. I never saw what I wanted to see in the mirror. Did you ever get to a point where you felt like you were like, oh, I got it. I got to keep this. Do you know what I'm saying?
Like
the cocktail
while I was drinking and
yes,
using?
This many days of restricting my food and da-da-da-da-da. You look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I did it. I got to remember how to repeat
where
that.
I would stop drinking. So I would have there were many times before I got sober where like I could like abstain. So like.
Why?
It was always like I did a lot of Geographical, so I like bounced around a lot.
Starting when?
Starting like at like 19. So like I went to school in Orange County, and then I would like, my parents actually made me move to Arizona with my dad because I OD'd and had a seizure.
My goodness.
So
did it scare you, or were you like
not
annoyed?
Really. Like I don't think I realized it was an OD. Like I had started taking a certain medication that made you more prone to seizures, and then mixed it with a lot of cocaine. And I like came out of the seizure, and I think I like called my parents, were like, oh, I had a seizure the other night. It's okay. I'm totally fine. And they were kind of like, and they like pulled me out of school. And
I'm guessing at this point they knew you were doing what you were doing. And
I don't know. I mean, if they,
maybe not to the extent.
They knew the extent. I think they knew something was up. They knew I was partying really hard. I don't know if they really realized like all of the drugs that I was on.
Were you good at lying?
Not really. And I'm an only child. So like my parents are just like, it's always been like very involved with them. Like I didn't really have like siblings to hide behind or anything. I did lie, but I think like, with a parent that's dealing with a child that's going through that, I think they like believe what they want to believe. It wasn't until later that like my dad told me, they were like,
hold on.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Yeah.
But what you said right there, just because like I'm constantly thinking about all the people that we have in our audience, because we do have a lot of family members, and especially parents and spouses of people that are struggling. And what you just said, it's not just an only child syndrome. When you have somebody in your life and you're either the primary caregiver, one of the primary caregivers, or the significant other, believing what you want to believe or what you need to believe is a form of survival when you yourself are out of control in the situation as well.
Totally.
And you can only go on so long trying to do something before you just give over to the automatic. And that, back to the beginning of our episode, when you're driving, right? Like there's something that takes over. The miracle power of the brain is that it does just that. In my time working in treatment and recovery, the amount of parents that I've talked to in the space where they're just putting their person, their whoever, family member in treatment, or reflecting back, there's so much shame and guilt. The what if, the shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is that you're not alone if you're believing what you want to believe because you need to believe that about the person struggling in your life. But if you're listening or watching right now, this can be your wake-up call as well to pay attention, to go deeper with what you're seeing. Because my parents were in the same exact boat. Now, I lied my tuchus off. Like, today I couldn't even accomplish half of the mastery of the lies that the house of cards that I had put together. But I really think it's so important as we talk about someone's story to remember all the people that, not just obviously the person struggling or the people who are in active recovery that might be listening or watching. But it's a family disease. Mm-hmm. It's more like, we hear that all the time. It's a family disease. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a freaking village disease. It's the whole society like is connected in some way, shape, or form to varying degrees.
Totally.
And so, continue. I just wanted to address that piece right there because it's so, the way you said that, I was like, whoo, somebody heard that just then and said, that's me. So your parents were believing what they
wanted to believe. And I would go through these periods where like I knew I was fucking up, and like I wanted to like get my shit together and I just didn't know how. So that's kind of where like the Geographicals came, and I was like, okay, well, like I'll move home with like my mom for like a couple months. I'll like get my shit together and then I'll move back to LA, or like I wanted to move to New York, but I always just moved to LA because it was so much more convenient and I like had like people there. And
the weather's so much better.
And the weather is better. But yeah, like, and then I would go like these periods of like, like when I moved to London, that was like the first time I went to meetings. My dad took me to an NA meeting. And
was your dad living in London?
No. So my dad, it was like I was leaving LA to go to London, and my dad had to like go for, this is like kind of a random tidbit, but like this was like one of my like bottoms, but my dad had to go to LA for like work, and like I wanted to like say goodbye to my friends, so like I went with him, and I ended up like staying out all night just like partying my ass off. And I remember like walking into the hotel room and like he just like couldn't even like look at me, and I was like, oh man, like I'm like way worse off. And like, because I think I had called him prior to that and been like, my like my boyfriend at the time was like, he's a drug addict, like I need to get out of here, like I'm the victim. And then I think that moment of me going out and doing it like without him, I was like, oh no, like I'm the problem. So like I broke down and was crying. I was like throwing up in like a trash basket, and like come to find out my dad had realized that I had stolen some of my stepmom's Percocet. And I was like, I think I have a problem and I need help. So he took me to an NA meeting because I just don't think he had any idea what to do. I don't, I learned later they had like toyed with sending me to rehab, which I was like, you guys definitely should have,
Yes. But the problem that so many parents face is they question whether, they're like, but is it bad enough? Is it bad enough?
And I would sugarcoat everything.
Yeah. And they want to believe best.
They want to believe it. But I think if anything, I don't know if rehab would have worked at that point. I think I would have worn it like, yeah, I went to rehab, whatever. I would have seen it as another like badge of honor. I think if anything, it would have just like instilled like maybe like the 12 steps into me.
Oh yeah.
So I would have like at least had that in my brain. I don't think that rehab would have like worked at that point though. But I did start going to some NA meetings. And so like, yeah, when I moved to London, I was like, okay, I'm going to move to London. I'm not going to, because I didn't really truly fully believe alcohol like was my problem still. So I was like, I'm not going to drink for like at least the first couple months. Like, and I had people that were like, when you like get sober, it's about the plant. It's supposed to be kind of like forever. And I was like, I don't really think I think I just need a break. It was always like, I need a break and then I'll be better. And then Did you think, okay, so I'm going to ask you this because this is what I kept telling myself. Now, I was never able to, my periods of
like once I started thinking like maybe I have a problem, the periods of time that I was ever able to accumulate were like days, and I was like, well, at least I made it this many days, you know.
Yeah.
Or like through the week. But
which, honestly, I wish I would have been like that, because it was a mind fuck being able to take breaks.
Well,
so I was like, I'm not an alcoholic because I can like go a couple months without it, but I was like a binge drinker. I wasn't like an everyday drinker. And like once I would hit that certain point of like being drunk, then I would just be on the loose with like all the other shit too.
This is a fascinating part of the journey I like to talk about for people that have described theirs like you. Those interludes, however long they are, where you weren't drinking, do you remember? I mean, well, let me step back for a second. Do you have an internal dialogue?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, some people don't.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. I know. And I remember finding out that some people don't. And so now I've learned to ask before assuming. I know.
Yeah, always internal dialogue. I've always been like very imaginative, like, you know, only child, imaginary friends, all that.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, I wasn't an only child, but I was the youngest. So it's kind of similar.
Totally.
Like I was the only child in my world.
Yeah.
Okay, during those interludes, though, since you do have an internal dialogue, do you remember what... Because life looks different when we're not going balls to the wall crazy, drinking and drugging. What were you doing with your time? What were you thinking about? How were you looking at, like, what story were you telling yourself about how life was going? You know what I mean? And like,
I started to feel better. Mm-hmm. But then because I would feel better, I'd be like, okay, like I'm eating super healthy. I'm like doing all these things. I have energy. I'm not waking up hungover. And then because you feel better, you're like, oh, well, I feel better. So I think I'm okay to drink again.
So there wasn't like a long time. It wasn't like you stayed in that space long enough to be like,
it was like a couple. The longest I had was, I feel like we're like jumping all over in the timeline. There was like a year that I had got. It was like when I was with my first boyfriend when I was like, I think just 21. I blacked out at like a work trip baseball game and got arrested and taken to the psych ward because I tried to... Wait. I was just getting to the T.
No, well, but like, I need some more stage setting here.
Okay.
So you're at a baseball game for your work or his work?
So it was like, he wasn't there. So I was working, I bartended, I worked in restaurants and bars like forever.
Sure.
And so this restaurant that I was working at for like a work trip, we all got on like, I was living in Santa Cruz, California at the time. So we all got on this like bus and like went to the Giants game. And like, you know, again, it's like or I don't even know if I've talked to this, but I was just like, I thought I was drinking like everyone else was, but like I started getting to blackout point. And so like in the game, I know now, but I was blacked out. I like got into a fight with one of the other girls. And then this was one of my periods where like I wasn't doing cocaine. So then I started like calling out all the girls who like were like to our boss.
Oh, no.
I was a nightmare when I blacked out. I was like, and she's on drugs and she is, as I'm like blacked out and acting totally
slurring
insane.
words.
They're like, maybe you should do some. So I got like escorted out of the game, and then I just like the weight of my actions.
Do you remember any of this, or was this all from what people?
It was all like told. I didn't remember until like after I was outside of the game and I was like bawling. And then there was like this ledge that went over into the bay. And so someone left me for a second and I started climbing over the ledge to like jump into the bay. Which like, I don't think I really wanted to die, but I was like, but that's what's scary, right? Is like when we're fucked up, we do like insane shit.
Oh yeah.
And that could have gone horribly. My boss at the time like literally pulled me back over and he's like, I'm calling the cops. And the cops came and they took me to the psych ward. And I think because I had like climbed over. That's why they took me to the psych ward to like put me on watch or whatever. So after that, that was like right after I turned 21. So like I was already off to the races by then. I took like a year off, and like I think I was still like smoking weed and stuff. I was not working any program. I was with the very like toxic, controlling boyfriend. So like he was like monitoring me heavily. And as soon as I got out of that relationship, I started getting loaded again. So.
Okay. So the toying with control, lack of control, numbing out, all the cycles of like the stuff that we're doing just to like be okay or not feel at all. Did that also manifest in relationships? Like, was there like, so you talk about like toxic, being with a toxic boyfriend. Was there a pattern there for you with your romantic involvement?
I think with that one, I just didn't have a lot of like self-worth.
Yeah.
And obviously I didn't realize he was like that when I got with him. That was like, I think my first boyfriend. But I think those types of like controlling people like prey on people that like don't have their self-worth, or like people that haven't realized their power yet. And at that point in my life, I had not like realized like my power and my worth. So I think he kind of thought, oh, I can like mold her into what I want her to be. But like, this is like very verbally abusive. And I had a lot of like scars from that carried itself into like later
of course
things.
Yeah.
It took a lot of unpacking to like unhear that narrative. So
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So much. So you go to the psych ward, have a little bit of a wake up call. Relationship is toxic. You get out of the relationship. Balls to the wall. What happens next?
That was another Geographical. I had to get out of town because he was just like, I was like, if I stay here, I'm like not going to be able to get away from him. So I ended up moving to back to my dad's in Arizona. Mm-hmm. Again, I was like bouncing around all the time. And I was like, okay, like I'm away from that. I'm feeling better now. I'm like, I think I can drink a little bit again. And like, it's always like a slippery slope with me. It's like, I'm fine. And then the decline is just like so insane. And again, because I like was a blackout drunk, it was like either I was taking like Molly or Ecstasy, or I was like taking uppers. So I like wasn't blacking out, like, Adderall prescription, which I could never, like, I can't take certain, like, I haven't really explored non-narcotic ADHD medications, but I definitely can't take like Adderall because I've never been able to take it without abusing it. Like for like the small periods that I've like taken it and it's helped me with my ADHD, like it always spirals into like taking more
the
and
imbalance.
more and more
yeah.
and snorting it. And yeah.
So what you mentioned earlier that it wasn't until like kind of actually pursuing what you wanted to do in music came a bit later because of everything was so disorganized.
Yes, it was all like discombobulated. Yeah. So I moved to LA, like LA proper for music. Like before I had like lived in like Orange County. I spent a lot of time in like LA and Hollywood because all my friends are there. But like I finally moved to LA and I ended up getting like I moved to downtown LA, which I don't know if you're like familiar.
I am as of this past year. Okay. I've been to LA so many times, but it's always been like Hollywood, Malibu,
right?
All the, and downtown LA is like, so
it's wild.
Different.
Yeah. So like when I moved there, it was like just starting to be gentrified. And I think like in my mind, I told myself that like I did. I got like my own studio for like $750 because it was like subsidized housing. And I was like in my early 20s. I wasn't making anything. So I like qualified. So like I had my own loft. And also like I think downtown LA reminded me of like what I imagined 70s New York was. It was kind of like sleazy and gritty and like scary. And I think I kind of liked that. And also like all the drugs were very like readily available. Like I worked above the bar that I like bartended at, and like it was just everything was right there. I could have anything I wanted, breakfast, lunch,
Honestly,
and dinner.
that sounds like a blast in early 20s.
There were some fun times, but then there was also like it got like really fucking dark.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
that's the part of me that's like,
Yeah.
I can switch into that mode of like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as long as it was, that sounds like it was completely fun until it wasn't.
Absolutely. That's that's like verbatim how I say it. It was like, it was all really fun until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And like, so now jumping forward to, at some point, my grandfather passed away and I got enough money to like travel with. So I was like, I'm going to go on a backpacking trip through Europe. I'm going to go on like this soul journey. And like, it was like very like healing for me in a lot of ways. Didn't get me sober, but,
Did you think it was going to get you sober?
no, I just like, I wanted to like go and like see Europe and just like, it was just something like instinctual. Like, I need to go do this. And like, while I was like sort of backpacking around Europe, I was like, I think I need to like go to music school and like be in like a focused environment. I've always wanted to live in London. I was like always obsessed with the UK. I was like such a little Anglophile. Like, so while I was backpacking through Europe,
my sister and I growing up, we would try and see who could have the best. And it's really not good.
Mine's
I
not
can't
very
do one
good either,
at all.
love.
Really, I end up sounding like Nicole Kidman. Wait, actually, not even that good. It's like, I don't even know what it is.
I would get really drunk and I would try to talk in an English accent, but I would just kind of sound like Jack Sparrow. Like literally just like a fucking pirate.
Wait, okay.
Wench.
Fun, identifiable moment. I have to ask you, was there ever either a one-time and or a consistent lie that was just ridiculous that you told under the influence?
Not really. Like, God, I'd have to think on that. Like goofy lies or just like, I mean, like I would tell people all the time, like, oh, I'm a musician, and I like wasn't doing it. Like I wanted to be.
Right, you hadn't
but,
started
like,
yet.
I hadn't started yet, and I was like, yeah, I do music, and like people were like, oh, cool, can I hear it? I'm like, it's not ready yet.
I think that might be our episode title.
Right.
It's not ready yet.
It's not ready yet.
I'm just kidding. But oh gosh,
Yeah.
because
And then I would hate myself.
Oh, yeah.
Because then I'd be like, I want to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, where were we? London, or backpacking through Europe.
Yep.
I auditioned for music school in London, and like right after the audition, they're like, yeah, you can come study here. And I was like, I started crying. I was like, you'll take me? And so I got into this music school in London. So I ended up going back to LA, kind of bottomed out. That was when I like went to the NA meeting with my dad, and then I moved to London and I went to music school for a songwriting program. And that's where like I really like dove into it, and was like, okay, I'm doing this. And I think from that point on, with everything going on, I started to feel like I had more to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I was finally like it was like very precious to me because I'd wanted to do it for so long, and then I started doing it, and once I got the ball rolling, it definitely felt like I had a lot more to lose. So like after London, I moved here, and again I was like, I'm gonna move to Nashville and stay sober for a couple months, and I did, but then I started blacking out.
Wait, what? Wait, so let me ask you this. Did you achieve a level in London? Did you start performing? Would you say that you achieved like a level of success there before you left, or was it
like notoriety? I mean, it was a success for me because I like put together a band. I started playing like original songs. I was like doing the rock and roll thing. I was there for school, so it just kind of came to this point of like, okay, I can stay and like do a degree here and like stay in London, or I can just like move somewhere and like go for it. And that's like when I decided to just move to Nashville and go for it. Because at the time I thought I was really old. I think I was like 26 or 27. I was like, well, I'm old. I just need to like move to like Nashville and just go for it.
I remember being that age and feeling like...
To all of those out there that are 26 and 27 that think you're old, you're not.
Just you wait. Enjoy it. Oh my gosh.
Or maybe I just look really old to them.
So why Nashville? I mean, obviously Music City, but you don't do country.
I had been here before and I really liked it. And I knew it was a music town, so it was really just on a whim. I was just like, I cannot go back to LA. Yeah. I will die. So I moved here on a whim, and I was like, honestly, I feel like I was like, well, if Jack White's got his label there's got to be some cool rock and roll shit going on.
I mean, it's true.
And there's there is a very cool rock scene here. Yep. People think Nashville's just country, but like, I mean, in the 12 years I've been here, there's like so many types of music now, and the scene has grown so much, which I think is really cool. I think that's one of the cooler things that's come out of the growth of the city.
Completely.
Diversity.
Yeah. And that's why I asked, not because I think the way I asked that made it sound like I was hinting that you didn't belong, like, what, you know, you wouldn't belong here if you came here. It wasn't that. It's just that I knew when the time period that you're talking about, the world outside of Nashville only looked at us as,
right,
you know, honky tonk, badonkanonk.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so anyway, I think that's interesting, and it has been such a wonderful journey watching so much diversity come to our city, and also the entertainment here in the creative community.
Totally.
So you moved here, and what kind of played out for you both professionally and internally?
Like, it took a while to kind of find like the scene that I liked, and I did. Like, when I first moved to town, people were like, go to these writers rounds, and I would like play these rock and roll songs, and like I swear, like, I thought people were gonna throw Bibles at me.
Hold on, did you ever go to a writers round and play rock and roll at Bluebird? Please tell me you did.
Not at Bluebird, but there was this other one that was like at a hotel, and I sang this one. I mean, all my songs are about like partying and drugs, and, you know, it's just like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And just like when I started singing, just the look on like everyone's faces. So I was like, okay, this isn't my scene. And thankfully that didn't like dampen my spirit. I was just like, this is not for me. And I kind of just started hanging out in East Nashville and like meeting other musicians and like writing more. And, you know, I've gone through like a lot of different variations of the band. Like, it was always like under my name, but just kind of a rotating cast. And yeah, I mean, I love playing rock and roll. I think it just like, it got to like a point for me where I was like, this is feeling like I'm fighting all the time, and I'm like pushing through mud, and like whatever I'm doing with this like isn't working, and it's not like fulfilling me. And I had started DJing kind of on accident, and I started like getting all these like DJ gigs. And I was like, okay, well, this is working. Why don't I just like lean into this for a little bit and just like see what happens? So when was that you started DJing? I started DJing for fun like 8 years ago, like just playing like vinyl records. Like, you know, I used to work at Duke's, and so like I started like vinyl DJing at Duke's. One of my like best friends used to DJ there all the time. She's like, I'll teach you how to DJ. And so like me and her just started DJing together, and it was totally like, I can play records with my friends and make money. Like, this is crazy. And then like slowly people started like asking me to do things, and then like finally like going digital a couple years ago has just like really opened a lot of doors and like opportunities. And like now I'm like kind of like, okay, I think I am ready to like do some original music. Like I'd like to do stuff like more like in the dance world, just to kind of maybe lean into more of like that DJ artist producer kind of thing. And then I throw these like 70s glam rock nights, and those actually started as a DJ night because I have a bunch of like rare 70s glam rock 45s. And so like ideally or initially it was going to be like I like DJ'd, and then I was like, we need like something happening. Let's like, I can get my band to like be the band, and we should like get some special guests. And like that ended up being like the main focus of it. So now that's pretty much like all it is. It's like my band and a bunch of guests playing 70s glam rock songs. Interestingly enough, we're like now like wanting to start recording songs as the Glam Bam Band, and like that just like feels like fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to say, maybe the timeline was the timeline because it needed to be the timeline.
Totally.
You know? So what happened when you came to Nashville? Like what's been your journey with your addiction or substance use / recovery since you came to Nashville?
So like again, first couple months I like didn't, and then like I started blacking out really bad, and I kind of had some like constant like burn some bridges, and you know, made other friends, whatever. I was like, fuck them.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually like friends with a lot of those people now. But started drinking, and then like, you know, found the drug people, found the cocaine, found the other things, and just like really started spiraling. I started like taking Adderall again, but I was like buying it off of someone.
Sure.
Yeah. And just like the uppers and the alcohol and like chasing this party again. Like it's always the same thing. It was always the same cycle for me. The moment like kind of like pretty close to my bottom that really got me sober, like I knew I was like kind of out of control, and again that fear of losing things, because I had put together a band, I was playing gigs, I was like doing the thing.
At this point, was there feedback that you were getting from the people that you trusted in your life, your friends, whoever those people were you getting any sort of feedback that there was concern about?
So right before I hit my bottom, I was at a bachelorette party in Atlanta, and that friend had pulled me aside and was like, hey, one of my friends that's coming like all the way from like Germany is like not comfortable with this. Like, can we just like not have any drugs at the bachelorette party? And I could feel like myself like getting so angry. It was like the addict monster was like lashing out, and I literally was like, what do you mean? Like, I can't drink without blacking out. Like, I need to have like some Adderall or something so I don't black out. And
yeah,
like,
it's a party. Also, how dare you think that just because you're not comfortable, you get to ruin everybody's good time?
Yeah, totally. And like that moment and those
it's
feelings.
So easy for me to flip back into that space of being like, you entitled little.
Yeah, like rude. So and then when I had that last time, I was like, whoa, that was a little unhinged, James. And so I was like, okay, this isn't about me. Like, I'm gonna like, you know, keep it cool and like pace myself. And like, when I like talk about like pacing, when I think about how much I drank that whole like day and night, like I spaced out the drinks, but it was like a lot. Like, you know, it started at the hotel, and like just, you know, I did eat, which was good, but like, you know, it was just, that was like, I think I hit my bottom because I really thought like as I was doing it, I was like, I'm controlling and managing this. Like I'm eating, I'm pacing out my drinks, whatever. And I still got like so out of control, and I ended up like blacking out. It always ends on a blackout for me. And I woke up and everyone was gone. There was like a hole in the hotel room wall. It's the W too. It was like nice. So there was like a hole in the hotel room wall.
The W here?
No, in Atlanta.
Okay.
Which I feel like W's were like more fun back in the day. So it was like fun W era. Anyways, There was a hole in the hotel room wall, and I was like alone, and I was like, I fucked up. Like, I knew it. And then like little glimpses started coming in where like I threw a like full like water bottle at one of my friends' heads, and I was just, I couldn't remember what I said. I found out later.
Do you remember what made the hole in the wall?
Huh?
Do you remember what made the hole in the wall?
I don't actually I don't know if I fell into it or like what, but it was something.
It was you.
Or maybe it was the water bottle. I actually like can't remember what caused the hole in the wall, but it was definitely me. So I woke up, and that's when I broke down and like cried out to a higher power, which I wasn't like, I was always like spiritual, like manifest, but like I wasn't like that. It's like super spiritual. And I like cried out to a higher power, and I like literally, the word powerless came to me, which is not a word that I use. And that's how I know it was like a spiritual experience, because I was like, I am powerless over this, and I think I need help. So that was kind of like the bottom.
What'd you do?
Well, one of the girls who was at the bachelorette party, and you were asking if friends intervened. So after that whole group of friends had like an intervention with me. And at that point I was just totally like, I know I'm terrible. I hate myself. I need help.
So you wake up, you're in the hotel, that nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
Did you just stay there until everybody came back? Or
no, they had gone to this like Korean spa. It was like this 24-hour spa. And so I went to meet them there, and like they gave you like this like prison jumpsuit outfit. So I remember looking in the mirror at the spa and seeing myself like in this like outfit, and I was like all disheveled, and I was like, this is where we're headed.
Wait, what color was it?
I want to say it was like, I can't remember. It wasn't orange. It couldn't have been orange. It was probably gray or something, but I looked like a mental patient.
Okay.
And I felt like one.
Yeah.
So like that experience compiled on top of like really like truly like bottoming out and realizing like I had a problem. Those friends then each like, cause then I went on like my apology train, like at the spa, and they all were just like, you need help. Like, we love you. And I was like, I know I do need help. So one of the girls on the trip, her sister was in the program, and I knew that. And I had these like plants in my life of like people who were sober, and like just like, I wonder what that's like. And I ended up calling her, and she told me about some meetings. So I started going to meetings in East Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you like from there, like were you just like good to go?
No. So I really like dove into AA. I say dove into AA. I did AA for a year. That first sponsor that I had, I still love dearly. She is like mentor, like amazing person. But like after about a year and a half, I was like, I'm feeling good. I don't think I need AA anymore. That was really great for me, like the first year and like for those people, but I don't really need that anymore. And I didn't drink, like I stayed sober, but I got really like dry and like really unhappy because I didn't have a solution. And I didn't have, because, you know, our solution for all those feelings when we're drinking and using is alcohol and drugs, but then we need something else to like help us when we get sober. So I got like really dry and like miserable.
How does that manifest for you when
it's like I get very like resenty, like things are always happening to me, like it's like everybody's out to get me, like, you know, me.
You mean you're a victim?
A victim. Like, what's my favorite note? Me.
As I said that, you're a victim. Who is that lady who she's like really blowing up online right now, and she like does the slow she talks like this in the sunglasses. And she's like, don't call me after 2 p.m. Do you not know what I'm talking about?
No.
I have to show you after this.
Yeah, now I want to see.
Yeah, everybody.
Sounds up my alley.
It most definitely is. Anyway, so you're a victim. I feel stupid now for bringing that up, but you'll laugh when I show you. So you're victim-y.
And then I also think like I know everything. I get like a little delulu and I'm like, oh, like, well, I don't need AA. That couldn't like help me. And I started being like, oh, well, maybe I can start taking like CBD to feel better. And so I started like dabbling with like CBD. And then I actually accidentally got stoned for the first time because I was on a boat and my friend was like, oh, this weed is like mostly CBD, which I should have known better because this friend's like a pretty big stoner. So I like smoked the like CBD weed and I got like stoned. And I was like, oh, I'm like fucking high on this like boat in the middle of the lake. And then I was like, okay, well, that was fine. So then I started like smoking weed and like weed was never my like drug of choice. It like kind of like wigs me out and makes me paranoid.
Same.
Like I was like definitely an uppers and pills girly. And I was sitting there stoned one day and I was like, I think I just actually like want a drink. Like I feel uncomfortable. And then I started like, I didn't drink for a while, but I was like, okay, like I think I used to black out because my adrenal glands were so fucked up from the uppers. Like, I'm like a grown up now. I'm in my 30s. Like, I think I can drink now. It's been 5 years. I think I can drink again. And so it was 2020. It was actually pre-pandy. Oh
my God, pre-pandy. I'm dead. All right.
I started like drinking a little bit and then this was when I really learned about like the disease was like in my relapse because I didn't even like understand like the mental obsession part until like I relapsed because I would be like, okay, I'm going to drink on Thursday at my DJ gig. I'm going to have one drink 30 minutes into my set and then I'm going to have one more drink like right at the end and that's all I'm going to drink. I'm going to have those 2 drinks at my DJ set on Thursday. And I would think about alcohol like constantly like, okay, and then I'm going to go to this thing and I'll just have like 1 tequila soda. I'd be planning out like what I was going to drink where, and it never like really panned out that way. And then 2020 happened and I was like, okay, well, I don't have like shit to do. So I started getting like drunk more. My boyfriend at the time was like also like he wasn't like super like he was a lovely human, but he was like monitoring me. I think for him it was like a codependent. I want you to succeed at this because you want to. And like he went on like a little like camping trip and I ended up like having people over and I like blacked out and it took that one blackout, thank fuck, because I didn't start doing like drugs, but I like blacked out and I was like, oh, I am still a blackout drunk and like I know where this goes. So thankfully, like because of like my prior recovery and like looking at my prior history, like I had enough sense to be like, okay, back to AA. So
you went and
yeah, I jumped in because it was 2020, like we were on lockdown, so like I was like on Zoom meetings, like sometimes like every morning 7:30 and then sometimes like 2 or 3 a day. I was just going to meetings and I just jumped into it.
That's some real shit right there. The people that got sober, getting sober and like in quarantine was no joke.
It was no joke. I
didn't do it, but how many people I've talked to, like I can't imagine.
Thankful that like I didn't have anything else going on because like I was like, all right, like I don't have anything else going on. I'm just gonna like dive into AA because I knew I was like whatever like I was trying to do last time, my way didn't work. So I need to like shut the fuck up and like listen to what these people have to say, and I need to do the things that are suggested that aren't comfortable. Because before, I think when I worked at 12-step program, I like kind of cherry picked the things that like I liked. I was like, I'll take that one. Yeah. Don't really need that one. So I just did all the things. I took all the suggestions.
So I want to ask you, as we're wrapping up, what were the things that you didn't want to do that made you uncomfortable that you then did and have leaned into since that have made the difference for you?
Picking up the phone, like calling people in service. Like I never, I would like help out here and there, but like really jumping into service. Like I started chairing meetings and like now like having sponsees and like giving it away and like helping people because I'm a selfish little see you next Tuesday and like I need to like get out of myself and like help others. And that's the stuff. That's it.
It is. It really is. Living out the gratitude.
Yeah.
Is there any other, like when it comes to making life worth living and just being like finding joy and peace, all the things that like we essentially want in the first place, is there anything else that has made a big impact in your life since you made that last turn to recovery? That's enhanced your quality. I always like to ask this because hopefully the journey doesn't end. And I love the answers that people tell me because they're like, it's always different. What has enhanced your life and made, that you wouldn't have been doing right now?
I don't know if it's like a thing or that just like life has gotten enhanced and it's gotten so much bigger and like in a way where like I just like to have this sense of wonder, like where else can we go from here?
Yeah.
Like if this is like happened and like that's a miracle, like where else can I go? Like what else you got for me, universe?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I have to say that I've been to many parties, but pre and post sobriety, and we didn't meet at the first number of times that I was at some events that you were DJing, but I love being there's definitely you're so talented, but there's such a difference in someone that is like enjoying in all of its like authenticity. You're just like there is like a joy, a light, and a glow to you that like I don't know if people aren't sober, they may not, I don't know, but like as a sober person, I love going to an event like and see the first one I went to was
thank you by the way, that was like very kind.
The Rod Stewart themed Halloween party at that.
Yes.
So much fun. And anyway, I think that what I want to say there is you are a shining example of sobriety does not have to be boring.
Absolutely not. Like, I think I actually truly, people think I sound cheesy, but I do. I have so much more fun now that I'm sober because I used to I always wanted to have fun when I was getting loaded and I would always like fuck it up by getting loaded. And now I'm truly present and I get to have fun and I'm getting to do things that I love. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to know you. And I'm glad that we finally, the stars finally aligned for us to sit down and have this conversation.
Yes. I'm so glad that I get to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm honored.
Final question for that person that has identified with your story today and, just that's me or part of that, whatever. What final word of encouragement would you like to leave them with?
You can do it and you don't have to do it alone. I had so much help and just be okay asking for help because if you do, then it's there.
If they're going to ask for help, what would you say is simplest?
I mean, if they really don't know where to go at all, find you a little meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And go in there and raise your hand and be like, I need help.
Really good advice. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
And to all of you that have tuned in, we're so glad that you're here. We're grateful for you. And I want to remind each and every one of you that it's never too late to start loving yourself. And you're always only one decision away from a completely different life. This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.